What needs to be done to make sure that you don't just take for granted the momentum that is currently being seen, not just for Harris-Walz, but for other tickets down the ballot?
Well, I think we have to make sure we continue the energy and find ways to continue to push it forward. You know, I really like the move of Harris-Walz going to the Milwaukee Arena today.
You like the counter-programming of their own convention?
Yeah, I thought that was kind of neat, actually. And, you know, those are the things, you know, it looks like they're having fun. It really does. It looks like it's a campaign of hope and joy. That's a good respite from what we'd had going about a month or two ago. The contrast with the Republicans is pretty stark. Trump looks off his game. I'll be charitable and say it that way. And I think we're continuing to make headway.
Joe Biden delivered the big speech last night. Shed a tear up there. Some pretty special moments for him. Obviously, a very emotional experience to hear that standing ovation for 4 minutes. It was a very late night for him as well. But I'm struck as we sit here today with a couple of members of the Democratic House Conference that it was the House in the end that led him to his decision to leave the race, wasn't it? After that debate, the idea of potentially Democrats losing the House was the game-changing emotion that mobilized people like Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, and others. It was your chamber, wasn't it?
Well, I make no secret of the fact that I was on the other side of that. I supported Biden. I thought he could win the election. But yes, water under the bridge at this point, and the transition's been beautifully executed. You know, the way he announced that he wasn't going to run, then passed the baton immediately to Vice President Harris, and the way she's taken off with everybody's rallied behind her. The donors have up to $500 million now, something like that, and the volunteers. I think it's a real big advantage for us in these volunteer offices across the country, because Trump and the RNC chose to put their money towards his legal fees, whereas Biden and Harris have put the money in the ground game. And so I think we can really make some hay in these battleground states on that front alone.
Well, certainly your leadership in the House is sounding a little bit more enthusiastic, perhaps, about the prospects. We got to speak with one of them, the whip of the House minority, Congresswoman Catherine Clark of Massachusetts, joined us earlier about potentially claiming that majority.
I have always been bullish on the Democrats retaking the House, because what we've seen are do nothing at best and real extremism that the American people are rejecting. And so what we're seeing is this incredible energy and momentum that we are going to turn into action.
But even before we saw this ticket turnover, if you will, Congressman, we knew there were likely better odds of the House turning Democrat than the Senate staying so, as Republicans see a number of pickup opportunities, not just potentially in Ohio and Montana, where obviously things are very vulnerable, but they think they have a shot in your state of Maryland. And their candidate, Larry Hogan, who's up against Angela Alsobrooks, who has a speaking slot tonight on night 2 of the DNC.
I'm trying not to laugh. Hogan's ads, I was joking about this the other day. He's actually running campaign
He was a very
ads.
popular governor,
Very popular governor pre-Dobbs, right? So he was able to duck the Roe v. Wade issue when he ran for governor twice. He can't duck it now, but he's trying hard. So his campaign ad theme is people before politics, or people over politics. Guess whose line that is? Hakeem Jeffries in the House Democrats. He's running as a light blue Democrat, I guess, but I don't think people are going to be fooled by Democrat light. They're going to see through it. I think some of them will actually be offended by it, because he's treating them like they're stupid. And I think that's not a smart campaign strategy.
So you think Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket gets Angela Alsobrooks elected? Could that be a sweep of the House and Senate that would allow you to get funding for the Key Bridge in Baltimore? Is that required to get the funding for the Key?
Well, let me walk through that. Yeah. I think Angela would have won regardless of, you could have a dog catcher at the top of the ticket. Angela Alsobrooks is going to be Larry Hogan.
Early to endorse.
Yeah. And I think, Kamala Harris is going to win the presidency. Key Bridge, though, if Trump wins it, I think it's at risk. I think FBI headquarters, which has been placed in my district, could be at risk. I think a lot of major projects like that could be at risk.
You just live without a bridge in that world?
I don't know what he would do, but nobody makes money predicting what Donald Trump's going to do. And we certainly don't want to, as a country, rely on having to count on Donald Trump to come through for us.
Well, you may not be able to predict what he will do. You might also not be able to predict what happened to him. Certainly no one really predicted the attempted assassination that happened on the eve of the Republican convention last month. You, of course, are serving on the task force investigating that. How has your work come along thus far? Knowing you've been on recess for weeks now, is that work ongoing? Have you unveiled new information? What can you share with us?
Yeah, it's getting underway. You're right, though. Being in recess makes it harder for us to get together because we're not in Washington. We're scattered across the country. But we've had some virtual meetings and conference calls and the like. Staff has been hired. I think they're pretty much all done at this point. We've sent letters to get the documents from the Secret Service and the FBI. Other committees had collected some documents, too. We're pulling those together. We're now starting to line up the transcribed interviews. In short, we're getting the investigation underway, I think, as quickly as possible. And I'm proud to say that it's moving forward in a bipartisan way so far.